Dr. Victor Von Doom, or Doctor Doom, is easily one of the best characters in all of Marvel Comics. He is the ruler of the fictional kingdom of Latveria and is considered one of the most brilliant minds on Earth with an intellect that surpasses that of Tony Stark and Reed Richards. Today, we're going to cover absolutely everything you need to know about Doctor Doom, and you will soon see why IGN ranks him as the best villain to ever come out of Marvel.
We're going to go into his origins, his powers, and it's much more than just shooting out lightning out of his hands, like if he were a Sith Lord. A lot of his origin comes from his parents, his mother and father. They were gypsies. His mother she was a bit of a magician, sorceress, and he follows in those footsteps. And his father was an inventor. He just had a thing for science. And as we know, Doom goes out and tries to learn everything his mother learned, and he has a hatred for the former ruler of his country, very much kind of like Magneto's, where the guy was just a suppressor of the people, and his mother dies, and his father, tries to sell his inventions, and it doesn't really go well for his father.
And then flash forward a bit to his college years. Doom receives a full scholarship to the State University in Hedgeman, where he then meets his soon to be arch rival, Reed Richards, in which he becomes very competitive with Reed and sees him as an intellectual rival. While Reed Richards, otherwise known as Mr. Fantastic, focuses on physics and designing spaceships, Victor starts to become obsessive about developing a machine that could project the astral self into other dimension. Reed, seeing Doom's designs, points out an error in the calculations. And Doom, being the incredibly arrogant man that he is, completely ignores Reed and dismisses him, thinking that Reed is just trying to upstage him. But as Reed said, there was a pretty fatal error in the calculations, and this would literally blow up in Doom's face, permanently scarring him. And then, typical villain fashion, Doom blames Reed for the destruction of his machine, his disfigurement, and his expulsion from the university. And from there, the arch rivalry is formed between Doctor Doom and Reed Richards.
After what happened with Reed Richards, he goes to Tibet, and he ends up with these monks where, he ends up learning all these other mystical powers and becomes a sorcerer, and he gets his armor. He comes across these three demons who infuse or they give him an armor that's infused with mystical and demonic powers, but in exchange for a lover of his. And this is where we start to learn that Victor Von Doom is really ruthless. I mean, he will achieve his goals no matter what the cost, and he sacrifices his lover, Valeria, in exchange for these powers. And a lot of us will remember that, Thanos sacrificed Gamora for one of the Infinity Stones. But to me, and I think Griff, this is much more hardcore. I mean, this is the woman he loved, and he's willing to sacrifice her, at the snap of a finger in exchange for this powered up armor, which later on he ends up losing. But, that's just one of the things. At some point, Doctor Doom also becomes Sorcerer Supreme. It takes me back to the Fox days where a lot of my friends have just told me, they're like, well, why do you think he's so cool? He just shoots lightning. No, Doctor Doom is an experienced and high level magician and sorcerer. He knows a lot of magic. He can create force fields. He can shoot beams. He can trap you. He can do mind manipulation. There's so many powers. At some point, I feel like just having him pick a source of powers and stick to that, because Doom, he's even learned from Morgan Le Fay. He knows how to read different languages and magic. And again, he's the ruler of his own country, which puts him up there with Magneto. At some point, Magneto becomes a ruler of his own nation. But Doom also has diplomatic immunity because he's the ruler of his own country. So there are arcs where he gets to walk into the United States and he can't be arrested because of that diplomatic immunity. So that, to me, it puts him up there on a higher level than just any other ordinary, the Joker, Magneto, Dr. Octopus, if you will, because Doom has that diplomatic immunity. He has the entire resource of his nation. So he really is a ruler, for better or for worse, depending on most comic iterations, but his people do like him. He's a well thought out ruler. I mean, yes, he's a dictator, but the interests of his people are really at his heart. I mean, yes, he's hell bent on world domination and conquering the world, pretty much having it be Doom's way or no way, he does bring good to at least his people. Latveria, they have a high level of education, they have a good, resources at their disposal. So it's not like an ordinary tyrant where he wants to just enslave his people, wants to enslave the rest of the world. But if you live in Latveria, it goes pretty well for you. His intellect is one of the greatest powers he has at his disposal. A lot of people think Reed Richards and Stark and perhaps Spider-Man are smarter than him. No, Doom is smarter than they are. It's just, we'll get into his weaknesses, but every villain has a weakness. But Doctor Doom is, I would say, one of top four minds in Marvel, but definitely smarter than Reed Richards, definitely smarter than Stark. His intellect is really up there, and one of the main points of it is he keeps, upgrading his armor, very much like Tony Stark, but his is nuclear powered armor, and it's also magically infused. So Doctor Doom can fly. He can create energy shields around him. Yes, he can shoot out electricity, but that's not his main power. He can shoot out energy bolts, magic bolts, and again, he can read and cast spells just like Doctor Strange. He can rival Doctor Strange. Doctor Doom is a skilled martial artist, highly skilled. He's a skilled swordsman too. So just think of Darth Sidious, Darth Vader, and Count Dooku all into one, really, with Doctor Doom. He's deadly as all hell in every form of combat that you can imagine, including if you stripped his armor and his magical powers away from him and he somehow got a hold of a sword, he'd still hand your ass to you. And on top of that, he's incredibly prepared. Think also Batman. He's so prepared that he infused his armor with pieces of Christ's cross, not for any religious purpose, but just in the off case that he were ever to have to fend off against vampires or any sort of demonic spirit, which of course we know through the Christian lore, Catholicism, that they're highly afraid of, any Christian-like artifacts. So that's just another key point as to how prepared Doom is. Who the hell knows if he were ever going to come across a vampire or a demonic spirit? But in the off case that he did, he'd be well prepared for it because his armor would withstand that. And it's also magnetically protected, so Magneto couldn't just come and crush him. So he's up there with some of the most powerful Marvel villains, and that's even before he gets a hold of, the Silver Surfer's cosmic powers. Sometimes he gets Beyonder's powers. Doctor Doom is very deadly. He's taken on the Avengers. He's taken on, of course, the Fantastic Four because of his rivalry with Reed Richards. And you get to see that in various comic arcs, or if you've seen the 90s Fantastic Four cartoon or the Fox Fantastic Four movies, which again, sadly, we'll get into it a little bit later, but he hasn't really been done right yet. But comic book Doctor Doom or even video game Doctor Doom, he's a very dangerous foe. I mean, the Avengers have had to come together to take on Doctor Doom. Sadly, as every villain and as every superhero, he does have very few weaknesses, but one of the main ones is, of course, his arrogance. Someone with this level of intellect and with this level of resources at their disposal would suffer from, being arrogant. And very much like Anakin Skywalker or Dr. Hannibal Lecter, or even Reed Richards and Tony Stark, whose, flaws are also arrogance. Doctor Doom is highly arrogant, and that's where he's able to be taken down. And just some of his key relationships, as Griff mentioned brilliantly earlier, Reed Richards, they met in college. He also met Iron Man in college, and he also did not like Iron Man. I mean, how could you? They're basically the same people. So why would they like each other, right? But Reed Richards, he comes across much more later on. And I could only imagine being Victor Von Doom and having hated Reed in college when he thought that maybe he was on his level or perhaps even superior, to now encounter him again in the future where now he's Mr. Fantastic and the leader of Marvel's first family. That's got to sting. And he's had his run-ins with the Fantastic Four numerous times, and he's been known to defeat them, but he's also been known to be defeated by the Fantastic Four and by Reed's intellect. I would say that he's a heavy, perhaps the best of the Fantastic Four's villains.
Oh, for sure. I mean, just imagine if the guy who you blame your entire life's failure for is
The guy that
at
keeps
the
beating you.
keeps beating you, who's at the top of the world. He's well loved in the public sphere. He's well respected, and you see him everywhere you go. And each time he just hands it to you. He tricks you every single time and gets the better of you. Because I mean, even Reed admits that he is no match for Doctor Doom, but Doom just can't get his ego in check. And
Which is funny because Reed also suffers from a high arrogance complex. The fact that he's able to pull back and say, no, 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 Von Doom is smarter than I am. I just get lucky. That's the one thing that Victor can't do. He can't humble himself enough to admit mistakes. And that's the one thing that Reed does have in his corner. He's got Sue, he's got Ben, he's got Johnny. Doom has no one in his corner. And when he did have someone, he traded her for more power. So there you go. But another very interesting relationship that Victor Von Doom has is the Silver Surfer. Ever since he learns of the Silver Surfer and his cosmic power, he wants that power. And so that makes for a lot of interesting, dynamics, both in comics, cartoons, and even perhaps in the Fox movie, which wasn't done all that great, but we got to see a bit of.
and another pretty interesting relationship is between Doctor Doom and Scarlet Witch, and in particular with one arc called the Children's Crusade. And essentially to sum it up, because I think this is going to come into play with the MCU going forward, it's a young Avengers story. Scarlet Witch loses all of her memories and is found in Latveria and is engaged to Doctor Doom. It's kind of is a classic amnesia plot, but the interesting thing about this and the reason why we bring it up is due to the upcoming Agatha show and the trailers that we have seen and the speculation that that could be Doom's castle, and especially with Scarlet Witch's assumed dead body, there could be a very similar plot line to the Children's Crusade coming up in the Agatha show that I think is important to point out, especially since the dead rarely stay dead. And if you have Elizabeth Olsen and the Scarlet Witch is one of the most popular characters in the MCU, she's not going to be dead for much longer. And Doctor Doom definitely has the means to bring her back, especially with RDJ coming to the MCU as Doctor Doom.
It could be a little bit of movie magic trickery, but that scene, it just looked like Ledberia to me, and it looked like Castle Doom. And if it's not, I'm gonna be a little mad, but I understand them pulling the wool over our eyes.
Oh yeah, I mean with the cast of characters and Agatha, it definitely fits the Children's Crusade. The storyline's fitting pretty nicely with it. Doctor Doom would be a pretty good way to get people to watch that show because I don't think many people care about it otherwise.
Yeah, so they could be playing coy with. I mean, it's a perfect way to get us to watch this. Very much like fucking She-Hulk, and with Daredevil, got us to sit through the whole thing. So even if they do that and it's a small, just they mention Castle Doom or it really is Castle Doom, and but we never see him, I'll still very much enjoy that.
Oh yeah,
I've
absolutely.
seen the clip many times and it's very green. It could be any other damn place, but it
Could
would
be
make all the
Dracula.
sense. Not green. I mean, yeah, you're right. It could be anything, but if it's Castle Doom, they got me.
To me, I think the big reasons why I really like Doctor Doom, and Edward and I have talked about this before, I do like him more as a villain than as an anti-hero. He has before even become Iron Man when Tony Stark had some issues, so Doctor Doom became Iron Man. He became the infamous Iron Man. But I think he works best as a villain, and even then, he does things he goes about them the wrong way, but he has noble intentions. He is trying to create world order, and when he has gotten the power, when he's become like God Emperor Doom, or when he's become Beyonder Doom, we have seen in the comics the world prosper under Doom. It has been a quote unquote utopia, just people didn't like it because Doom was the ruler.
Which is dumb as fuck when you think about it. Free healthcare, no one's work. Like, if you guys have seen Spider-Man the animated series, they do secret wars in that shit. And like when Doom gets the Beyonder's powers, he makes a perfect, society where no one works, everyone's just having fun, food is free, like housing is free. But the idea, like, I like where I live, I just don't like who rules it, even though it's a fair rule. Let's be honest, some of the rulers now suck. The idea, it's like just because it's Doom, I don't like it. That's dumb as all hell.
Yeah, I mean, especially since, again, the end goal is good, the way he gets there isn't. And if you're at the end goal, why would you then try to change that if that was
Yeah.
the goal? That's the good. That's what everyone agrees upon.
If you really think about it, what world leader has gotten to where he is without doing some pretty bad shit? Doom does ultimately achieve what like most of these world leaders want. And by the time he achieves it, his end goal, we've seen it. We've read it in comics, we've seen it on TV. You're like, I'd live there. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
I'd
not to
live there.
mention, he's honest and truthful. His word is his bond. He rarely lies, and
Yeah.
he'll straight up tell you what he's done to get here. He is not shy away from it, and he is fully prepared to do what needs to be done. Yes, he is still an evil person. I am not trying to defend that.
His motives are, and this I could just be weird about it. His motives are much more pure to me because he literally wants ultimate world peace and everyone to have the same. It's not like a socialist regime like where like you're going to be wearing this pair of boots for like 14 months. No, no, no. Everyone's living like it's like heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Doom achieves that, and very few people. Magneto hasn't been able to achieve that. He ruled Genosha, but that was a shitstorm. Doom, when he rules, I mean, just I know you guys can't literally ask someone in Latveria, but like, if you read the comics, most people in Latveria, they're perfectly fine with Doom's rule.
They even throw a doomsday parade. Like they have a whole
Yeah,
holiday around it. It's a huge party where they do it because they want to.
he's portrayed as this evil dictator who just wants to like let's face it. I know I'm throwing out a lot of Star Wars references here. Palpatine is a complete dick. He rules with an iron fist. Doom rules, but he doesn't rule with an iron fist. I mean, yes, he's complete dictator and ruler. I know that sounds weird, but it's just his people have freedom and free housing and levels of healthcare that aren't heard of, and no one gets sick, and education's like top priority and things like that. And it's like when you really read into it, you're like, well, this dude's not that bad. It's just the way he gets there is bad, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's just, when you read into his ultimate goal, it's not like he's creating slavery and like backbreaking work for his people. Like no one's his doom bots and like his machines are out there doing all the heavy lifting. And these people are just like having picnics and like having parades, as Griff said. And it's like, wait a minute, I want to fucking live in Latveria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want my ruler to give me a free house. And
Exactly.
I'm not talking like these people live in huts. Doom has people, doctors, lawyers, like educated people, and they're living like in good houses. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not how we live currently, man.
Yeah. I like characters like that, and for that, that really attracted me to Doctor Doom. And he is one of my favorite characters in Marvel. He is
Absolutely.
such a fun villain, and it is a shame, as Edward said, that we never got him right in the movies. And I really do hope that we get him right going forward. Even in video games, we've had some great iterations of him. He is whenever he's in a game, a movie show, I am always immediately interested.
I know we get so little of him. And as Griff said just now, anytime I get a snippet, an episode of a cartoon, whether it's Avengers or, the Fantastic Four, and he's in there for 5 or 6 minutes, I always try to watch that because he's such an interesting character. And for the most part, I would say that in animation, he's been done, he's had some pretty cool arcs. And in video games, he's had amazing arcs. In all four of the Fantastic, or is it five now, live action movies, he's never been done right, which it really upsets me because his origin's been screwed up horribly. He's just this big, billionaire tycoon type, and he gets powers alongside with the Fantastic Four, which makes no damn sense. Why the hell was he up there in space with the Fantastic Four? And then in the latest iteration of the Fantastic Four movies, where he's a fucking internet blogger, God, that pissed me off. It doesn't have to be 100% comic book accurate. Come on, man. An internet blogger that I mean, yes, he does have intellect. Yes, he's but if you guys seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. He's walking around with a fucking like potato head mask and a trash bag for a cape. He's not even from Latveria. Just get him right. And so now Robert Downey Jr. has been cast, the Russo brothers said, as Victor Von Doom. I doubt Now that we've had a couple of days to, let it simmer down, I very much doubt that, very much like with Fantastic Four, that Kevin Feige wants to be the dude that screws this up again, because Doctor Doom has never been done right. So if I'm Kevin Feige, I want to believe that I got to be saying to myself, I got to get this guy right. Can't screw him up again yet for another 3 movies, 2 movies. It's got to be done right.
Oh yeah.
It's RDJ, phenomenal actor. I'm not too happy that they went back to him, but I don't want Iron Man variant Doom. I want Dr. Victor Von Doom.
As we said, there's been a lot of movie iterations. Hopefully, we start to get it right. There's also been a couple of comic iterations of Doctor Doom, and the biggest change between them has mostly just been due to his scarring, just with different various levels. Sometimes it's happened where it's just like a minor cut, but his ego can't handle the imperfections. So he just says he's horribly disfigured and wears a mask, even though it's super minor.
You know how crazy that is?
Yeah, his ego's insane. His aura of self-importance and perfectionism is off the charts, even further than Tony Stark.
He's supposed to be a fairly handsome looking dude in the comics, in the iterations where he's not scarred. So
Yeah,
for him to be like tripping out over, a small scar or something like that, could you imagine if this dude had acne?
right? I mean, even going that far with like again the simple cut, he then went formed the armor with the Tibetan monks, and then didn't let his armor cool in time and put a searing heart mask onto his face, and then became disfigured that way. But other than that, pretty much every iteration of Doctor Doom has been the same. We've had the infamous Iron Man where he was briefly reformed, but he's been fairly consistent. Same goals, same motivations. And I like that, especially within comics, how things change so often. You get different writers, but Doctor Doom's remained pretty consistent.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that he's the same dude. And I agree with Griff. My favorite Doom is evil dictator Doom.
And if you're interested in getting a start into Doctor Doom, you just want to read some more stuff about him, I cannot recommend anything more than Secret Wars. There have been 2 iterations of it. Read both of them if you gotta choose one. Read the newest one where you get God Emperor Doom, and this is more than likely going to be what the MCU is based off of. It is such a good story. They do a great job with the multiverse. It has Miles Morales, has Spider-Man, Iron Man. It is a great crossover story. And if you want more of a story that's more focused on Doom and his origins, I recommend Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom Triumph and Torment, which goes heavily into Doom's origins as well as gives a very satisfying conclusion to Doom's true first goal, which is to rescue his mother. It's a great horror inspired story with great dialogue and some real fantastic artwork.
I agree.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Let us know what you thought about Doctor Doom, and are you excited for upcoming Secret Wars and RDJ to portray him in the MCU? And if you enjoyed this video, enjoyed this type of content, check out our Everything You Need to Know About Deadpool video, where we cover everything you need to know about comic Deadpool, movie Deadpool, and pretty much everything in between.